Yeah. Ah. Yeah.
These cameos are killing me.
Is it time for that already? I'm sorry. Hey, let me turn this down a little bit. There we go. So, welcome to the More Marriage Moment. Have you ever heard the phrase, you need to either, well, they might say something else, but crap or get off the pot? Well, today we're going to be talking about the idea, no, being in love with the idea of being in love. What does that mean? You know anybody who talks about being in love but scared to take that next step? Somebody who may be afraid of commitment, or somebody who just simply likes the idea of being connected but is not willing to really make the moves and take the risk to be in meaningful relationship. Hang out with us for a few minutes and we're going to talk about it. The idea of being in love, or being in love with the idea of being in love. Be right there.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me.
But it's who I am. And so he had to learn how to say, this is how my wife thinks, and I had to learn how to say, this is how my husband thinks.
You've got a friend in me.
I think that the fire in the relationship, in the marital relationship, has to consist of maintaining and never losing the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
You've got a friend in me.
If you got stinky people, then you don't want to be around them.
You don't want to be around stinky people.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Because that's what you're going to smell.
Because
every
you
day.
what you gonna smell. And 9 times out of 10, if the attitude is bad, it's a stinky person.
Got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me.
Hey, and welcome to the More Marriage Moment. I'm Ed, and this is...
I'm Renee. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us again for another moment of marriage. I said that backwards. A marriage moment with the Moors. I think I got that, huh?
You got all the necessary M's in there. Hey, this week we're going to be talking about in love with the idea of being in love.
Oh, boy.
We kind of picked up from last week
Yeah, we're
on
kinda
this.
carrying on.
I told a story last week about how I don't think I had really been in love until I got with you.
And I said, I did that. I did that. That's me, y'all.
Ah,
Yeah.
you got that whip appeal on me. Anyway, that's a whole nother.
Wait a minute. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Hallelujah.
So I had dated, I had been in some short-term relationships. I never had a long, extended, some people date for years and years and I
Years.
Yeah, I just never did that, I think that's because I get bored fast maybe or something, I don't know. But I'd never really experienced the in love feeling, I don't think, until I met my wife. And so there are people who I got tired of coming home. That's right. And you know what? Gee whiz, how much of this do we want to tell? So we were both previously engaged to someone else. And
Yes, we were.
I think that for me, I got to a moment where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of coming home. Ain't nobody here. I need a wife, and I think that was part of my mindset, when I got engaged the first time, it was like, yeah, you're getting old, you ain't getting no younger, you need a wife, start a family,
All
and
those
that type
things.
of, all that.
But I mean, but even, and I said this last time we were here, is that particular relationship, I was using it for the benefits of what I wanted. Not because I was in love or anything like that, but it had a benefit that I wanted. So I was in love with the ideal that it could supply me or provide me with what I thought was needed. But even in the previous relationship prior to that engagement, you know, and I kind of thought this through a little bit when we were talking about this scenario. Oh my God, like the memories really came back. Like I had been involved with somebody for years, and
So you were like a long-term dater?
yeah, I mean, I was young.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't looking to be
Okay.
married. And again, remember, marriage was not on my radar.
Okay.
It was not a fleeting moment because I hadn't seen marriage to be majorly successful in my environment. Like, you know, I probably could count on one hand at that point how many successful married couples I've seen.
Okay.
And so marriage to me was not basically on the radar. So dating was what you did when you were younger. It was just what you did. You dated to see. But prior to that, I remember a situation arising in the dating scene, and it got really ugly. You know, it got really, really ugly, and it was because of a decision that I personally made concerning my journey. So all of those thoughts came back to my mind when we began to talk about or think about this particular topic of being in love with an ideal of being loved, and realizing that it was a chase for an elusive feeling. It was, again, it was deceptive. It wasn't true. It wasn't really real. Although I stayed consistent with it, I knew it wasn't the true definition of what love really
It wasn't
looked
from
like.
a genuine place.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't from that genuine place. So,
and I think, like you were saying, I think that it's pretty common. People, are enamored or obsessed or consumed with this idea of love and marriage, and they may have like all the wrong motives.
I mean, and really, at that point in time, it was similarities. We had similarities. We went to the same church. We,
okay.
denominational wise.
Okay.
Because remember, dating outside of your denomination was equal to the scripture of not being equally yoked.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness, the deep saints.
it was the deep saints. And so, so you're kind of young and you fall into that mold, but it wasn't love. It was just like, oh, we went to the same school. We go to the same church. Oh, I know them. We've been friends for years. And it was beneficial. It wasn't nothing that knocked me off of my feet.
So you can't get wrapped up in a feeling.
Oh no. I said this the other day, is that, you really have to know that your feelings will lie to you.
Yeah.
It will tell you that this is all it is, and there's no other hope for nothing different. Your feelings will make you believe that a bad situation, a loveless situation is all there is for you. That's what feelings will say.
If you got to defend, but she really do love me, or he really, I know he said that, but he really do love me. That's not love. Love is a verb.
It's action.
And you ought to be able to see some demonstration. You ought to be able to see the action behind love.
Behind that. And I think part of the problem is when you enter into a relationship, normally you don't go in with the mindset of just what that relationship can give you. If it's real. Because in that fact, you're looking at how you can enhance them, how they can enhance you. It becomes a give and take type of thing. And so when you are really in love with the ideal of being loved, it's all about what you can get out of that.
Right.
Nothing else. Like, I don't have nothing to bring to the table. It's just, what can I benefit out of this?
That's why we tell people when we're counseling, couples who are planning on getting married, you've got to sit down and have some real intense dialogue, and you got to get beyond the feeling stuff, and ask the serious questions. If I'm in a terrible car accident and I can't walk, Are you gonna leave me?
Are you gonna leave me? My God.
You got to get beyond your feelings.
You got to get beyond
and
that.
deal, because life happens
all the time.
Life happens.
Life, it never stops moving, and when life never stops moving, you have to make up in your mind that your love will be just as consistent.
My God,
you got to make up in your mind. I mean, really, when we talked about that last week, like, you have to show up to work every single day for that, and so. When you are in love with the ideal of being in love, there is no true investment.
Watch this. Love, and this just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm going to give y'all this. Love has to be solid and fluid at the same time.
At the same time, yes.
It's got to be able to stand and weather the storm. It's got to be strong and anchored. And then it's also got to have the ability to maneuver when life happens.
And I think we kind of got ahead of ourselves. But when you really look at love is not something that, when you love somebody, you don't look to change them. Mm-hmm. You look to journey through the process of their change.
Right.
It is a difference of that. And so when you are in the ideal of being in love, or loving the ideal with just being in love, you go in looking how to change them to fit what you believe is good for you or necessary, such as clothing. Like, you got to change their style of clothing. You want to change their hair. You want to change how they talk. You want to, change.
Did you want to change me, baby?
No, I didn't.
All right.
I did not. I mean, I was very confident in the fact that you were a confident man.
Okay.
And there was no intimidation from me for you. Versus, and there was no intimidation for you.
Absolutely.
For me.
Absolutely.
I believe that we grew comfortable in knowing who we were and who we were called to be, not just in ministry, but I believe with one another. Mm-hmm. That friendship.
I tell all the time, one of the things when I was praying for my wife, I said, Lord, I want a strong black woman.
Oh my God.
And
Here I am.
The Lord answers prayer. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I wanted a strong black woman. And she fit the bill, And, she talked about insecurities. There were no insecurities on either side here. I know that for some preachers, my wife can be intimidating.
No.
But see, I'm smart.
The product of his intelligence.
That's right. That's Bishop Romy Coles. I'm going to give him a shout out. But my wife is the product of my intelligence. And so I push her. I promote her. I put her in front of people. When doors were opening for me, I was walking her through the door.
Yeah. I mean, and I think really for me, that was major because women in ministry was not a very common
as prevalent at that time.
It wasn't really prevalent. And so, I recall the story. I recall this. I was invited to preach, and I don't want to throw the denomination out, but I wasn't allowed to stand in the pulpit, and I didn't know how to handle that. But my pastor at that time, he gave me great words of wisdom. He says, you get up and you remind yourself that the pulpit doesn't make the preacher.
Right.
And your vote of confidence in me was major because it didn't matter what anybody else thought about me because I already knew what you thought about me. Oh. And so that was major, it was major. And so when you are in love with someone, it is the vote of confidence of them that enhances them to be better in their becoming of who they're called to be. And so when you think about being in love and recognizing that, I always say this, when they see me, they see you.
Okay.
And how do I represent you? What am I pushing out? Because we've always been equal in our journey together. Like I know how to move out of the way to let him be the man, and I don't feel no kind of way because he gotta be the man. He is that protector. He is the priest of our home. And even in decision makings, we will have conversations about decision making, but when it comes down, the final decision is still lying in his hands because that's the role that he plays. And so when you are in love truly, you understand the work that it takes to do that. And part of the work is there is compromise in love, but there is investment too. It doesn't dismiss my voice. It's invested. It is listened to. It's adhered to. It's all of those things.
I think we are jumping ahead because that's kind of like the next point. But let's take a break and honor some marriage heroes.
All right,
how
marriage
about
heroes.
that?
Thank you for doing it. This is marriage highlights.
Marriage highlights.
Yeah, all
Check out the marriage highlight for this week. This week's marriage highlight was sent in from Remintha Moore. Remintha stated, "Hello, I would like to feature Bishop and Mother Finney from Omega Baptist Church. They have been happily married for over 60 years, and he still calls her darling and honey. If you see them together, they act like y'all. Still newlyweds over 60 years." Thank you, Remintha, for sending that in. Remember, every week we want to feature a happily married couple. And we like to do that in what we call our marriage highlights. If you would like to nominate a married couple to be featured, do so by sending us an inbox on Facebook or go to moremarriagemoment@gmail.com to send us an email. We would love to hear from you and honor your marriage heroes. Thank you. All right, we're back and we're still talking about in love with the idea of being in love.
Man.
So let's pick up, one of the points or questions I had is, what makes people afraid to commit? We got this, long-term dating thing, and we've been dating for, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Maybe I'm in love with this idea of being in love, but I don't want to really be in love. I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too. What makes people afraid of commitment?
Whew. For me, what I've seen when it comes to the fear of commitment is that place of losing their independence. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
That is, or not so much as maybe losing independence is very vague, but I think part of that is expectations of what marriage looks like, marriages that they have been a part of or seen growing up in an environment.
Did we talk about, because we've taken trips separately. She's got a group of friends that, they've gone out the country. I had the tracking device on her luggage and everything. She didn't know. But anyway, that's a whole nother.
No, he didn't. Yeah, don't listen to him.
But she's been out of the country. I've got some friends who've been friends of mine since elementary school, and once a year we'll get together and we started this probably about it was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's become something that's very important to me. To see my brothers and to spend time with them once a year is just phenomenal. We didn't talk about trips like that apart, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. No. And I wonder how, because I know for some people that would be like a thing, like
insecurities, yeah.
She ain't going nowhere out to no country without me.
Yeah. Yeah. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever believe that my first time out of the country would not be with him.
Isn't that something?
That was not even a thought for me. You know what I mean? And so when it came and I was like, I'm going without you? Like, for real? Like this, you good with that, And
I was fine.
And he was. I think he promoted it really good. But I think, that insecurity of what can happen out of the presence, all of those little things like that kind of flare up. But I just think commitment is sometimes seen as a curse versus a blessing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only gonna have to be with one man or one woman for the rest of my life. Well, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? You know, and so all of these little components. It was an American psychologist by the name of Dr. Dorothy Teneville. She stated that the average lifespan of romantic obsession is about 2 years. In other words, you really have a pinpointed ideal of being in a romantic place with somebody for only 2 years. And so, you know, it's like, isn't that something?
Yeah, wow.
You know, because
So after 2 years, we just ho-hum?
we just ho hum. The ideal of lust is gone. You know, I don't want to say lust. I don't crave you the way that I did, because now I've become so comfortable with you
It's
that
common.
it's common, and you lose the reverence of the very thing that you said you desired. So that commitment issue becomes very big, because that obsession is gone. We good now. We comfortable. Why we got to commit?
Wow.
Why we got to change what we have?
And see, I think that's a part of the reason why, like, I'm not really a big fan of long-term engagements. To me, that just makes no sense. I'm thinking, you know, I see what I want, I go pursue it, and I, you know.
But everybody's
me,
not, and see
Tarzan,
that's, you know, but
you, Jane.
every man is not like that, and really, every woman is not like that. Why?
Sure,
Is because,
sure.
you know, we grew up on the mindset, or we've been taught that you don't need nobody but you, or
Yeah.
you're a strong woman and you can make things happen, and you don't need a man to do. So there's so many barriers to commitment that one has to be willing to confront their ideology of what marriage really is.
Wow.
And-
And with so many skewed and jaded opinions, philosophies, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
ideas of marriage, it can be tricky out here.
It can be very, very messy, because
Yeah.
you have to know that your philosophy affects your attitude with how you think about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
if your philosophy says you don't need anybody, your attitude says, I don't need to be committed to this.
Wow.
Why would I need to be committed to that?
Right.
What more could that do to enhance me?
Right.
How can it enhance me? You know, and the biggest, you know, I don't want to go biblical because it's not a biblical show, but when you look at marriage, I can't help but to see certain aspects of the Bible that talks about being help. It is an enhancement. It is,
Yeah.
you know, I'm coming to hold up your arms while
Right,
you're holding up
right.
my arms. And, you know,
We make each other better.
one of my favorite pictures, and I'm sure many people have seen this picture already, but one of my favorite pictures that we have ever taken, we didn't even take it. It was taken at the Women's Summit, and we were praying for our husbands, and you came up on the stage and you got on your knees in front of me, and I laid hands. It's one of my favorite pictures. I love that picture because it was really a representation of what happens in the private that became public. You know,
That was
and
that stand by your man.
and because
Uh-huh.
my greatest, to me, one of my greatest jobs is being able to cover you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so how can I see that as an enhancement?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I'm always praying that the Lord will grant favor to your life. I'm always, you know,
Listen, you know, y'all remember, I want to say when it on the TD Jakes Love and Romance thing, I think it was, and ain't that Steve Harvey to be singing on talking? He don't be singing, he be talking on there. You know, one of the most, and it was funny because it happened before, way before the song, so I knew she didn't get it from Bishop Jake's CD. But you know, I've awakened to my wife praying over me, and that is just like one of the most amazing things. If your wife ain't a praying woman, I feel for you. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I ain't, you know, but man, to wake up and my wife is praying for me is just, man, it just gives you a feeling like I can do anything, you know. So that's I don't know how I got there. I'm sorry.
Hey, it's all right. That's where we are. I mean, it's amazing to do the job that is connected to being committed in this relationship. You know, and I'm not saying all of the jobs are gorgeous or, you know, easy or sacrificial. I'm not saying that, but there are some messy jobs to marriage.
Absolutely.
Let me talk about it. There's some messy
Absolutely.
jobs to marriage. But the part of that is you being able to go and enhance what it looks like. That's what I see. And so when you talk about commitment, there's so, like, again, we talked about, there's so many barriers to that. Past influences,
Sure.
models. And, you know, I remember during counseling and the bishop asked you, you know, something about how you gonna handle your house, and you was like, I'm gonna run my house. And my face at that point was like, bruh, he messed up.
Bishop asked the question, and I said, I'm going to run my house.
And I was thinking, oh boy, we got a problem.
And then I went on to say, I'm going to run the lawnmower, I'm going to run the washer, I'm going to run the dryer.
And then my whole expression was like, that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
And you know where I got that from, right?
Where?
I got that from Pastor Luther. I got that from Pastor Luther. It's a classic.
You know,
It's a classic.
but at that moment, hearing that tone, I'm gonna run my house, I was like, you know, and it brought up all of the insecurities, like, you know, but to hear the transition of how you're gonna run, and I mean, it's been, you know, he tells me I got to do it all. Yes, be a man that can do it all, right? Run the washer, run the dryer, cook, clean. He can do it all, you know. But at that point, I've never had that experience with a man who could do it all. You know what I mean? And so that's a fear of the commitment. Like, am I just going to be, you know, the term barefoot and pregnant in the house, you know, having to do everything. And that hasn't been our story.
Right.
So, but there's so many barriers to commitment that people have settled for the mindset of just being with the ideal of being in love without commitment.
You deserve the best.
And I believe that.
You deserve the best, and that's something we believe. You shouldn't have to settle. So before you actually like settle, and you got this mindset that love should be, you know, peaches and roses and all that kind of stuff. Do some real deep soul searching within yourself. Like I think you said a minute ago. You know, what role models of marriage did you have? You know, have you seen a successful marriage? You know, what types of relationships did you witness, you know, growing up? You know, and you need to consider all that stuff. And that might be, for those of you who are having a problem committing, that might be part of the reason why you're having a problem, because you had some poor representations of what relationship
down in front of you.
Marriage, you know, look like. And so, you know, we encourage you.
Yeah.
We admonish you, please go talk. There's nothing wrong with talking to somebody.
Well, let's talk about that, because part about one of the important components about being in love or feeling loved is knowing that you deserve real love.
You deserve it.
That is one of the most important components about being loved or being in love, is to recognize that you deserve to be loved. And if you yourself is challenged in being loved, that you would rather settle for the ideal of being in love. And that means when things get difficult, it's easy for you to run. There's no attachment to it. There's no investment. It's just something to keep you occupied at the moment. You know what I mean? It fulfills a need, whether it be status, whether they just fit your ideal, whether it's just how they make you feel, whether it's what they do or what they say. Those are benefits. You know what I mean? Those are benefits that's connected to a relationship with the ideal of being in love, but no real investment to it. Like they come home today and they say something you don't like, it's like, all right, deuces,
I'm
peace,
out.
I'm out.
You're not committed.
There's no commitment.
There's no real commitment.
That's an elusive type of relationship,
Right.
an elusive feeling. It's not real. Because if somebody comes home, there's going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, where are we at? Why are we here? We've been invested. There's stake in the ground. There's seeds in the ground.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I want to understand how did we get here, and how did we change the trajectory of where we are? Those are the measures and the components of what love looks like. I'm not leaving because he didn't pick up his dirty clothes, or I'm not leaving because, he didn't call me today, or, people always say, you talk to your husband 4 or 5 times a day. Hecky doggone yeah. Listen, if I don't hear his voice so many times a day, I'm calling him like, hey, you good? You all right? I need to know. I need to make sure, because that's just us. Everybody doesn't have,
right. Right.
that type of thing going on. It's something that we've had from day one,
So, love is a verb, and we were saying you really have to be willing to. You have to be able to look into yourself, look inward, and see. What is it that I desire, or how is it I desire to be loved?
To be loved. Recognize you deserve.
You deserve to be loved,
and are worthy of real love, invested love. And what are some components of what real love looks like?
I was going to ask you. Yeah. What does love look like?
Well, we talked about that. It's love doesn't seek to change you, but love will go with you through the process of your change.
There you go. Through thick and thin.
It'll go through the process.
Come hell or high water.
Now, yes, and it can get ugly. You know what I mean? It can.
You remember when you had your little car accident?
Yes. So let me talk about this really quick before he put me out. He threw me in front of the bus. Most of you know I was in a head-on collision a few years back, and my leg was shattered, so I could not walk.
Couldn't walk.
And
messed up my Christmas, my
everything.
New Year's.
Oh, it's horrible. But not only that, I am not a person who can take doses of heavy medicine either. So I was under some heavy medicine.
She blamed it on the medication.
There's video proof about the medicine, how the medicine did me. But I remember coming home, and I had whatever the medicine was, and my husband was going somewhere, and he was leaving me. And I was like, what are you going to do? You're going to leave me now? And he was like, what? Blame it on the pills. I keep trying to tell him it was the pills.
She went way left.
I went all the way. It was bad. It was ugly. I think I was crying, and it was just
tears
ugly.
and everything.
It was bad.
I was leaving her.
I was like, he's leaving me because my leg is messed up. But he came back, y'all. He came back. He told me, I'm coming back, and he did. So love. Love will cover you. Unlike him right at this moment, love will cover the multitudes of the faults. My goodness, it was an ugly moment. It was drug-induced moment.
But you have to be willing to live through those moments, and you will. You'll survive.
God, you'll survive. Love will make you keep showing up to do the work, right? It will make you clock in every single day. It will make you reflect. It will make you apologize. It will make you say, what can we do to do better? It will make you get off the exit and turn around and come get them. That's what love will do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It will also acknowledge that I see you. You know what I mean? It's again that process. Thank God, and I get a little emotional through here, because from moving from the ideal of what I thought love was to being able to experience the real type of love, such a major change. I remember, and this story, I was young, and I don't want to uncover anybody, but there was a young man that I was dating, and I watched this young man cheat on me. And
where you at?
It doesn't even matter. But I watched him cheat on me with the help of a friend. And
Dirty dog.
yeah, and it all triggered back up. But in my thought process was, he'll come back to me. The fact that I waited after
That you
knowing
waited.
was a clear indication that I didn't know the worth or the value that I was to be loved.
But you dropped that 0 and got with a hero.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really funny. It was, I don't know if I ever told you that story, but I'll have to tell them that story. But, and it all came back to me, and I thought, I was really in love with the ideal of being loved because I was willing to wait after knowing what was happening. And I mean, it wasn't behind closed doors either. You know what I mean? This was out open in my face.
Oh my.
And I'm thinking, but it'll be back. How many times have you sat there and just waited for them to come back after knowing their behavior shows clear indication that they don't value you and don't believe that you're worth that love?
Wow. Value you.
Yeah.
You're worth it.
You're worth that. And so you got to know that your well-being is worth being invested in. And anybody that loves you does not set out to hurt you or destroy you. You know what I mean? So your well-being, your peace of mind is worth being invested in. That is a sign of love. I want to make sure that you're good. What can I do to support you in becoming your best self? How can I build you up to become your best self? That's what love looks like. When you think about the magnitude of love, you got to know that love wants you to know that you have been considered and found worthy.
All right. Well, I think we shared enough tonight. Next week, join us next week. We're going to talk about please don't say I do if you really don't.
If you don't.
Please don't say I
Please
do
don't
if
say
you
you
really
do
don't.
if you really
I
don't.
think I'm going to take a chapter out of my book. Those of you who may know, or maybe you don't know, a number of years ago I wrote a book called Notes to My Sons, and you can get that book on Amazon.com if you want to get it. Today, order it today. It'll be to you in a couple of days if you're a Prime member, or you can get the e-version. But we're going to talk about that chapter. Please don't say I do if you really don't. Okay?
If you don't.
So that's what we'll be talking about next week. Join us. Again, shout out to Bishop and Lady Finney for being our marriage highlight for this week.
Yes. Thank you, and join us again.
Join us again. Bye.
Something wrong.